So how to increase my child's self-motivation and initiative to finish his work is something I think about a lot. And that's because the number one thing that I hate to do is to nag and micromanage someone who doesn't want to be managed. So today in this video, I'm going to be talking about an overarching strategy that I use and 3 practical tips that I would like to share with you if you are also struggling with a child who is often distracted and cannot start and finish his work on his own. Let's dive in. Hi, I'm Abigail and I am fascinated with helping children learn how to focus. Nothing makes me happier than seeing a child working on an activity deep in flow in concentration. When our children can focus, they can focus to learn anything their heart desires. Today, I run a membership that helps parents with a distracted child tamp down the big emotional meltdowns so their children can become more focused and self-motivated to start and finish the work. So our brains are really operating at 3 levels. I have a nifty analogy to help you remember the 3 levels. I also have a 3-part series of a YouTube video, so check it out here if you had not seen it. So the first level is the fight, flight, and freeze mode, and I call it the hop mode. Okay, not a great place to be. Okay, the second level is the reward or the reinforcement level, and if it helps you remember, think about Ironman. Okay, he's all about that high life, that dopamine, that adrenaline, and that's where our brains are operating at if we are thinking about what are the rewards for me. Third level is, I call it the Doctor Strange level. We are able to see the greater good. We are able to act in the best interests in the long term as well as for everybody else altruistically. And I've always thought, no, if given a choice, I would definitely want myself and my kids to operate at the Doctor Strange level, the level 3, intrinsic motivation. I largely still maintain that, but I'm giving external motivation a second look recently because in reality, our distracted kids find it really hard to operate in the long term because they have problems forecasting, they have problems looking ahead into the future, and because they are always wrapped up in the now and the present. That is always more real and immediate to them. And so I realized to motivate my distracted child to do his work, I really need to be looking at external rewards in the here and now. So the overarching strategy that I'm trying to employ is to ask myself this question: how can I help my child get those dopamine kicks that would help him to be motivated and have enough energy to get started on an activity, even if it's something that he doesn't like to do? And maybe the better question is not how can I, but is how can he motivate himself? How can he find motivating activities that he can pair with the unmotivating activities so that he can give himself that dopamine kicks as and when needed? And that's how a lot of us adults manage our time and manage our energy, right? Not everything needs to be a level 3 altruistic, I do this because it's for the greater good. I'd hate doing my household chores because to me it's necessary, but it's just not fun. I trick my brain to think that it's fun is by pairing an activity that is highly motivating to me with an activity that's not so fun. For example, ironing clothes. Ironing clothes has become one of my most happiest chores that I would love to do because I get to pair it with an activity that I love, mainly watching dramas. By doing that, it takes the tedium off, it helps me get started on the ironing, and once I get started, I'm a bit more motivated to see the basket of clothes go all the way down to empty. The same thing happens with our kids. The more they are able to help them get started, and once they get started, they are able to continue on with the momentum so that they get to the finish line. So would I classify these as level 3 kind of intrinsic rewards? Not really. I mean, at some point we want our kids to do work because it's good for them, because they know that it's good for their future in the long term, and hopefully we will get there. But for the here and now, that's an unrealistic goal. And I don't want to waste energy like trying to move them there when they're only at this stage. So if they can start tasting success, if they can start tasting that, hey, I can do this work, I can find different ways to motivate myself to do this work, even though I don't see the meaning of doing this work right now, but at least I'm getting it done, I'm still getting the value out of it. So I promised you 3 actionable things that you can do to help your child get more motivated and get those dopamine kicks in. Number 1, there's really no way to love some kind of work, right? Like 习字 or copying work, at least not for my child. How do I make it painless then? So I tie it to something more fun and rewarding. The first way is to have a Pomodoro Method. So the traditional Pomodoro Method is 20 minutes of work, 5 minutes of relaxation time. Okay, I tried this, so you would write for 20 minutes and then you would get 5 minutes of YouTube. It didn't work too well. Well, it did kind of. I mean, he did not get into a meltdown like he usually would when he's supposed to do copy work. So I guess that kind of worked. It got him seated at the table, but he was constantly distracted and he wasn't disciplined enough to do that work for 20 minutes. Well, but if you're an adult with better executive functioning skills, the Pomodoro Method probably can work quite well because you can discipline yourself to sit there for 20 minutes and just do, then you sit back and rest for 5 minutes and then start the cycle all over again. So what we tried was I gave him a goal. So I got him to write 3 lines and then he can watch his show for 5 minutes. That was a modification of the Pomodoro Method for us, and it worked slightly better than the 20 minutes. Something you can try both methods and see what works for your child. Second thing is to have a body double. Now, I know a lot of us think that the end game, is for us to be able to give our kids work, leave them alone, and they go do the work themselves while we go off and do our own work. Unfortunately, that remains that long-term goal for us. But for now, what works for my child is really to have us all sit together in a physical space, and I'm doing my work or I am watching him somewhat. He needs my physical presence to be there in order for him to sit down and do the work. It's called a body double, and even adults sometimes find this very, very effective in helping them be more productive. Like going to the office. Everybody's working at the office. You're a body doubling up for each other. That explains why it's so difficult for some of us to work from home alone with all the distractions of the computer. So that's a kind of body doubling, like going to a physical space, a co-working space to work together. So our child may need us to do that for him now, where perhaps everybody can sit together in one space and we can all do our work together so we can motivate each other to finish the work. Okay, and number 3 is to find or give your child that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. The sweet treat that ties everything together, that makes all this work worthwhile for him. For my son, it's that half hour of computer games at the end of the day. So for my child, this is the schedule he comes back and lives by. So he comes back from school and he eats his lunch, he bathes, and he starts on his homework, and he has to do a little bit of my work, a bit of revision, or maybe it's learning things here for the next week. He takes many days to learn his Chinese spelling. He has to do his reading, and then he has to do his household chores, and if there's any time left before 5:30, that's his block of time to decompress. Screen time at 5:30, so half an hour at 6 o'clock, and even if he overruns a little bit, it wouldn't be too much, and I wouldn't have to scold him all the time or every day because dinner would start soon then. So in conclusion, today we talked about operating at the rewards level, level 2, the Ironman level. So for a distracted child, they need that. And it's one level up from being fight and flight, right? And I would happily operate at this level for as long as he needs. And of course, the end game is to slowly move them up to level 3, where they start knowing how to motivate themselves with intrinsic motivation. And the 3 actionable tips: number 1, the Pomodoro Method. Number 2 is body doubling. And then number 3 is to have that big reward at the end of the day. Keep to it, keep your promise. If he keeps his promise, then we have to keep our promise so that there is trust and predictability. So if you want to learn more about how to help your distracted child start, focus, and finish his work, I have a mini workshop you can sign up for. I'll share the link in the description below. So click like and subscribe if you like today's sharing. Leave a comment if you had an aha moment or something that you would like to try. Do share it with me. If you have a question, leave the question in the comments and I'll get back to you. So remember that your belief in your child unlocks his or her superpowers. So keep believing and calling out that your child can be focused, your child can be self-motivated, your child can become independent, and they will prove us right. So see you soon. Bye.